You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So excited to have you with me today. Today is part 3. It is the finale of our, essentially, how to turn back the clock on brain-based aging. If you know someone who's currently dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's or any type of brain or cognitive-based decline, this episode is going to help. But also, do keep in mind, even those people who have not experienced that right now, because maybe they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, it's something that we all need to know about, since really in the future, it looks like it's going to affect 1 out of 2 people, which is just crazy to think about. But I've gone over the factors why. So I want to give you those today. That was episode 728, stephencabral.com/728. That was me going over the 14 risk factors that we know that are proven to cause dementia and brain-based illnesses or issues in cognitive decline, such as Alzheimer's. So I went over the risk factors there. Very simple things that you can do on your annual blood work with your PCP. You just have to ask your PCP to run them, or you can run those labs on your own, and we give you links for those things. And then on episode 732, so 728, 14 risk factors, 732, the 5 proven ways to prevent Alzheimer's and brain-based diseases. So now that we're looking at the risk factors, we're essentially looking at the big 5 causes, the big 5 reasons for why someone gets Alzheimer's. And I went over that. I hope that you tune into that show, because I really did demystify it. I mean, I've read a bunch of books on brain-based illness, disease, a lot of research studies over the past couple of years. And then I read, I believe it was either 2 or 3 books this month on Alzheimer's, and really cutting edge things. This is something that's very interesting to me, because both on my wife's side and also on my side, we had grandparents with Alzheimer's. And so we just want to make sure that everyone in our family, and that includes our parents and ourselves, and of course our kids one day, that they don't have to deal with any of those issues. And I don't believe that they will, because of what I'm sharing with you on the past shows as well as today. So please do tune into those shows. I gave you, the different exposures, and I talked about how inflammation, hormones, nutritional deficiencies, viruses, infections, genetics, and toxic exposure are some of those ways that we get Alzheimer's-based disease and how it actually affects the brain. So I talked about on the last show, that was on the 5 ways to prevent, proven ways to prevent Alzheimer's, is how our body starts to produce this thing called amyloid beta plaque, or a protein. That is where the issue, it doesn't initiate, but that's where things start to go wrong. So we talk about, of course, at a naturopathic level, we talk about what's the root cause, right? So what's the root cause for our body to start producing this thing called amyloid or amyloid beta? So I go into that, and today what I want to do now is I want us to start working on this today, whether we have Alzheimer's or not, and I want us to share this with as many people as we know, so that if anyone's starting to get a little bit of that cognitive decline, they see it in their parents and in their grandparents or even themselves, that we work on this today. Because I don't believe that anyone should have to suffer from Alzheimer's and brain-based diseases if they're willing to implement a few lifestyle-based strategies that can help them get to the root cause. And those root cause are things that I'm going to go over right now. So excited about doing deep dives on topics like this. If this is helpful, let me know. Feel free to go to cabralsupportgroup.com and just chime in there and just let me know if this was helpful, or go to Instagram and just go to my account at Stephen Cabral and feel free to leave a comment, especially on today's podcast post, that lets me know if this is helpful, because I'd love to do more deep dives in the future. We've done a deep dive on leaky gut, intestinal permeability, SIBO, Crohn's, colitis, candida overgrowth in the past, and now we're doing a really deep dive on brain-based diseases. I just feel it's very, very important. And then in the future, if someone has a question, I can always point back to these 3 specific episodes. Okay, so here's what we need to do. to combat Alzheimer's, to halt Alzheimer's, to reverse Alzheimer's. And yes, you can actually reverse many, many cases of Alzheimer's. The reason is that we need to somehow, which we can, start to rebuild those synapses in the brain. Okay. Now, for everyone, I believe that we can halt it by doing the processes that we're talking today. And then hopefully for a lot of people, we're going to be able to reverse that or start to see a remission of a lot of those symptoms. Okay. Even if we can't get 100% in remission, how far can we get it? And of course, for a lot of people suffering right now themselves or a family member, you know how debilitating this disease is and how progressive it can be. So why don't we do all we can? That's basically it. The earlier we catch this, the better, of course. You start to see signs, immediately start to work on it. Don't wait because it's not going to get better on its own. It's not. It's just not because you have to get to those underlying root causes. So let's talk about this. We need a multi-pronged approach. It's the reason why I spoke about in the last show that we are not getting results with pharmaceutical drugs. Am I against pharmaceutical drugs if they show to be effective in helping with Alzheimer's? No, I'm not against them. But I know that a lot of those, well, particularly all of them, are not looking at underlying root causes. So whether it helps with the actual slicing of some of the proteins in the brain in terms of replication or misreplication, I'm okay with that. But I know that at no point is it going to help work on the things that we're talking about today. So let's start early and let's use a multi-pronged approach. It's the only way to get well. I talk about it all the time. How do I help people get well? There's no silver bullet. I don't all of a sudden give someone vitamin C or vitamin B12 and they are miraculously better. They're not. It's just not going to happen, okay? But it will get better. Everything will get better once we start to look at all the systems of the body that are currently out of balance. The first place we're going to start is healing the gut. By healing the gut, we're going to better absorb nutrients, okay? So we're going to better be able to absorb and actually manufacture our own B vitamins, which the brain needs. We'll be able to produce the neurotransmitters that we need as well, including serotonin and melatonin for brain-based healing as an antioxidant-based effect as well. And we're going to be able to modulate the immune system, okay? So we're not going to have some of those as much inflammation as well. And if we can control inflammation, we can control it systemically, which means that we're less likely to have inflammation in the brain as well, which can create more plaque on the brain as well. So that's a big thing. What do I recommend? Of course, the organic acids test, but also you could just get started if you'd like with something like the Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol. Or if you don't get any gas, you don't get any bloating, you feel pretty good, you could simply do something like the gut rebuilding protocol to help seal up that gut wall. I'm just going to give you everything today, and then I'm going to pull it all together. All right, the second thing you could do is start to balance your hormones. Why? Well, we know, this is very important to look at, okay? We know that high levels of cortisol can burn out the brain, all right? We know that producing cortisol, especially high amounts in the evening when the brain and the body are supposed to have low levels of cortisol so that it can start to regenerate, rebuild, and renew at night is one of those big causes for brain-based atrophy, which when I say atrophy, I mean brain-based breakdown. So that means the brain start to actually shrink, and that's one form of Alzheimer's. Really, really important. We look at that. We can run a hormone adrenal panel. Very simple. That's a saliva-based test, whereas the first one was an organic acids-based test. Completely up to you. If you don't want to do that, well, you can simply use a product called Adrenal Soothe, 2 at breakfast, 2 at dinner, or you could do something like our deep sleep protocol before bed along with Cortisol Manager. And Cortisol Manager contains something called ashwagandha and phosphatidylserine. I'll be naming the nutritional supplements at the end. Cortisol Manager is actually manufactured by Integrative Therapeutics, and it's a great product for knocking down high cortisol at night. But before you do that, again, it is usually a good idea to lab test. Okay, next up is balancing your blood sugar. This is going to be a lot of my talk here today because nutrition, whole food in general is the most important thing you do in natural health. Supplements aren't more important. Lab testing isn't more important. Genetics aren't more important. What you put in your body, food-wise, is the most important. Here's what we need to do. In the beginning, we need to go a little bit lower carb, okay? We need to make sure that we're balancing blood sugar. It's extremely important that we don't have high levels of insulin, that we don't have high levels of something called hemoglobin A1C, which is looking at your blood sugar over the course of about 90 days. So, of course, you can test your morning glucose, but you could also have those blood markers called insulin and hemoglobin A1C tested with your PCP, or you can always use the annual lab test that I recommend by Life Extension, so you can do it on your own. Again, the goal is for you never have to ask to take control of your health. I don't want you to have to ask. It's nobody else's business. This is your job to take care of your body. That's the bottom line. Everybody else is super busy with their own life. Everything is crazy. Everyone just doesn't have time. That includes your doctor. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take back control of your own health by either running a lab through a functional medicine practitioner, running a lab through us, or you can even purchase your own blood work on a site like Life Extension and get all the results for yourself as well. So really, really important. So in the beginning, we're going to do a lower carb. Something you could start off with the elimination diet for 21 days to get reset. You can do our Dr. Cabral detox. That's my highest recommendation, which is what I'll be speaking about a little bit, probably in like 2 more points or so from now. And I mean, I feel really, really confident recommending that to you. It's like one of the top things. And I'm going to get into why with toxins in a moment. But here's the thing. With Alzheimer's disease and with a lot of these diseases such as cancer and autoimmune, we can't fool around. Like, I can't mix words today. That's the bottom line. This is really a disease that hurts the entire family. And I'm going to give you exactly what I would do with a family member. Exactly. Not a little bit. So I'm going to recommend the best product I know for detoxification, which is the Dr. Cabral Detox that I hand formulated over a period of about 14 months or so. Okay. We've used it now for about 5 years, maybe 6 years. It is it is going to be the thing that helps to reset the entire body. It's a foundation. If you want to use another detoxification, just make sure it's functional medicine based and that it works on detoxifying your liver at that level. We're going to talk about that in one moment. Let me get back to the nutrition. I have to make sure that on an anti-Alzheimer's based diet that we do not have you eating fried food, really important, no frying in oil, none. And the reason is it creates a lot of advanced glycation end products, AGEs. It creates basically free radical damage. Those free radicals also hurt the brain. They cause inflammation as well. Really, really important. We're going to go on a lower meat diet. Some people may agree with this, but that's okay. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is that we have to be careful with the amount of carcinogens we put in our body and also the inflammation caused by meat. Other factors as well, such as hormones. But we also have to think about it like this. Well, we're going to look at the longest lived people in the world. They used meat as a garnish or as a condiment to the meal, not as the main part to the meal. Your diet should be predominantly plant-based. That means 60% to 80% low glycemic fruits, mainly vegetables, okay? What's a low glycemic fruit? Essentially, if it ends in berry or cherry or something like that, that is a low glycemic fruit. It's predominantly the skin. The skins provide the antioxidants. The antioxidants squelch the free radicals, which helps to decrease the inflammation. Your body's happy. Your brain is happy. That is the way to be. Green juices are fine. Just make sure there's no fruit in those green juices. That would be great as well. Another huge component, no processed meats. So no processing, no salamis and things like that have nitrates and other preservatives. And also no burnt food. Burnt food contains carcinogens that can also lead to cancer, but also those advanced glycation end products. We're going to really stay away from that. The other thing we're going to do is a nightly 12-hour intermittent fast from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. or from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., however you want to do it. I would like 12 hours of you working on really cleaning house. That's what not putting food in your body does. If you give half your day, 7 at night to 7 in the morning, to working on cleaning up the entire body, and that includes the brain, all the different pathogens that are in the body, cancer cells, all of those things, your body is going to not only work on detoxification at the time at a much faster level. When nothing new is coming in, you're also going to balance out blood sugar levels and decrease inflammation. It is truly what we consider the fountain of youth. That's 12 hours per day. Now, one day a week, we may actually do a intermittent fast, doing something like the 24-hour reset diet that I've spoken about before. The 24-hour reset is using a shake in the morning, a shake at lunch, a shake mid-afternoon, and then a normal dinner at night that's going to be lower starch as well. Really, really great to do. You can decide what works best for you. Some people, I spoke about this actually in last weekend's house call. Sometimes a bone broth, like real bone broth, would be appropriate. If you're vegan, you're not going to do that, of course, and you could do hot ginger tea all day. Hot ginger tea or hot ginger and lemon is an Ayurvedic thing to help that lymphatic system to move faster. That's a phenomenal thing. It's literally calorie-free. Or you can do our 24-hour reset, which works incredibly well too. So those are all great things to do. That's the crux of the nutrition plan. And again, it starts with our elimination diet. Our elimination diet you're given during the Dr. Cabral detox as well. Now, after that, you can start to add back in more carbohydrates, such as the sweet potatoes, the yams, the Japanese yams, the yucca, the squash, all those brightly colored root vegetables as well, once we start to level out that blood sugar for sure. Another thing that will help level out the blood sugar is being able to do some exercise. Let's start with walking. If you're at 3,500 steps per day, we're going to work it up to 4,000. If you're someone that has Alzheimer's or know someone that has Alzheimer's or a brain-based disease and balance is not great right now, well, let's get you on an exercise bike. Let's move that body. Let's get oxygen circulating through the body. Hopefully you tuned in on Thursday, last Thursday, episode 741. Today's episode 746. So for all the show notes today, go to episode 746. Okay, but on 741, I spoke about why aerobics is making a comeback. Now, in this case, the oxygen that's produced and brought in by doing cardiovascular-based work, whether it be walking, which is nice and parasympathetic and healing, or even hopping on the bike, is also great for bringing oxygen, which the brain needs, for healing as well. So exercise will help regulate the blood sugar levels. It will help modulate inflammation as long as we don't do too much. And it's going to help with oxygenation as well. Extremely, extremely important. Okay, we don't have to overdo it, but we want to do a little bit every single day. Okay. Our next part is addressing genetics. I spoke about this on the last episode 732 of how to prevent Alzheimer's, is to actually find out what do your methylation pathways look like. And if you have methylation inborn defects, which many people do, I mean, at least. So back in the day when I was studying this, it was like 22%. Now they're saying somewhere around upwards of 40%. That means that at least, let's say 40% of the population is walking around with a specific SNP, single nucleotide polymorphism, that doesn't allow them to properly methylate certain procedures in the body and utilization of certain vitamins such as B12, folic acid, and other products as well. It's not just those two, it's just those are the two most common and known. The other thing it causes issues with, and this is in addition to something called COMT, are the detox pathways in your body can be lessened. And that means when you even take in great things such as sulfur-based amino acids, your body can't properly utilize them. So essentially, you can be heterozygous or you can be homozygous, and you can be occluded from both of those things by approximately 30% to 70%, depending if you have one copy or two copies. These things are easily tested by running something like our genetic testing. Now, keep in mind, when I mention these labs, I don't own any of the labs. What we do is we offer the labs to you from the labs because you have to have them run through a functional medicine practitioner or a naturopathic doctor or an integrative medicine doctor. And what they come with is my interpretation as well as my recommendations and a health coaching call with one of my coaches. You don't have to do them, but we're just allowing you to give you the option to get the data for yourself. And the other big thing about genetics is just really making sure you figure out what your ApoE gene type is. I say blood type, but then people think it's the blood type diet. It's not the blood type diet. This is to look at what allele you have. Is it 2? Is it a 3? And is it a 4? And how many copies do you have of each? So you could have a 2-2, a 3-3, a 4-4, or 2-4, 2-3, a 2-4, or a 3-4. Yes, I think I covered all of them right there, or 4-4. So whenever you have a 4 allele, it means that your body is more prone essentially to inflammation. All factors, cardiovascular, brain, everything. And it does not do well with the high-fat diet, which is why I seem to be the only one out there, but I'm telling you, this is going to change by the end of 2018. I don't know how. It makes zero sense to me. I'm like the only one preaching a high-fat diet is not good for everyone. A keto diet is not good for everyone. And so it's really important to look at that because this ApoE4, and that's why even though I love the book, The End of Alzheimer's, that I talked about before, just don't understand why Dr. Bredesen, I understand why he's preaching a higher fat, low carb diet because he wants to re-regulate blood sugar level. I get that. That makes sense to me. But and he understands about the specific alleles, but he's recommending a quite high fat diet, and that's not going to work. That's actually going to be a huge detriment for those people, one of the 4 alleles, or potentially a double copy. And we know for those people specifically, they do much better on a lower fat diet, somewhere around 10% total fat for them is much, much better. And again, that's really clean, really clear. There's a lot of geneticists. I actually know 2 geneticists working at Boston University, and they know these studies. They see them. So that's a big, big thing, is knowing your genetics. And then, of course, if you have that gene, no big deal. Honestly, no big deal. Then you just live your life in accordance with that specific genotype. And it's okay. Like, you still can have olive oil. You can still have avocado. You can have a little bit of like MCT oil or coconut oil. You just can't go higher amounts. That's all. Like, again, like everyone has something. So don't be worried if you do have that. Everyone has something that's just your thing and you're going to deal with it. So no problem at all. All right. My last thing before I get into specialty supplements for Alzheimer's is that we need to remove the toxins. We need to remove the heavy metals. We know that aluminum, cadmium, arsenic, bromines, mercury, all of those are very detrimental to the brain. Even high levels of iron in the body. Like if you're a male or female with higher levels of iron, that can become a quite large oxidant or oxidizer in the body, creating massive amounts of oxidation, which is essentially rust in the body. So you can run a hair tissue mineral analysis to find out if you have any heavy metals lurking there. You can also do a urine test. You can do other tests. We just do a hair tissue mineral analysis because it's very easy, and then it also allows us to look at all your other minerals in your body, not just the heavy metals. Aluminum and mercury, I would say, are the two most pervasive with Alzheimer's, and that's only because we see when people autopsy the brains of a person with Alzheimer's, they notice that there are heavy metals, and one of those seems to be high levels of aluminum. So that's my first place, of course, to start. What do? Well, I eliminate aluminum from people's lifestyle in as much of a capacity as I can through water filters, through what else do I do? Removing the aluminum foil, the antiperspirants, the tap water, the aluminum spatulas, those types of things. Okay. So that's a great thing to look at. What else about doing a detox is that get rid of the metals, get rid of the gut bugs, the candida, the bacterial overgrowth, because we know bacteria as well affects the brain. And believe it or not, that actually starts and originates in the gut. Got to get rid of the viruses as well. Make sure that you've cleaned up your Lyme. Make sure you've cleaned up your Epstein-Barr and different types of herpes viruses. Now, again, whether you totally get rid of them or they're dormant, honestly, to me, doesn't matter. Just make sure they're not active, that they stay down, that they can't affect your immune system as well. And the last part is to support your liver. Keep in mind, every day, no matter what, you can't escape it. That's just the way it is. 77,000 man-made chemicals in the environment. I'm over in India studying. I'm with one of my mentors, Dr. Mori, and we're up there in the Himalayas, the foothill of the Himalayas, one of the purest, pristine places on earth, right? So I'm there, and we actually, pretty amazing experience. I'm on the back of his dirt bike. We drive up into the Himalayas. He's showing me all the different herbs, and he's showing me this yogi that he knows that's literally living in the Himalayas, and he has this kind of insane treehouse, just like you would imagine, like literally a treehouse. And he lives there, and he washes in the Ganges River, and just literally, this is something out of like a fairy tale, but it really happened. And he says, "Do you see that yogi over there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, even a yogi living, or basically naked, living in the Himalayas is affected by toxins every single day. And that's because the toxins rain down us from the clouds. They're in the air. They're polluting the environment. It's horrible, but it's our reality. And so we always have to be supporting the main organ, which allows us to constantly clean our blood. Your liver literally filters, there's that Boston accent coming out again. It filters all of the blood in your body, just like a car filter when you're driving down the highway, all the smogs in the air, all that. It's filtering all of that every 6 minutes, and it never stops. But your liver needs support. It has thousands of bile ducts. It's constantly working on cleaning, but they can get clogged. The bile can become like sludge, and your liver needs vitamins such as zinc, vitamin C, vitamin E. It needs glutamine. It needs selenium. It needs N-acetylcysteine or anything that's going to help to produce glutathione. So we know that our body needs these things, okay? It's not a mystery. This isn't woo-woo based science. This is legitimate. This is true orthomolecular medicine and functional medicine. Conventional medicine most likely will never catch up, or if they do, it will be decades. Please do not wait decades in order for you to start to see this promoted by the media, because right now it's not. Now, do keep in mind, the studies have already been published, and there's thousands upon thousands of studies about how these things work, because we know how human physiology works. Human physiology and your liver, we know how it works. Again, like in my upcoming book, I give you a diagram of exactly how the liver works, phase 1 and phase 2. You have to keep in mind, like, it's so hard for me to say these things because it's not mainstream, but it's the truth. And when you're the only person, well, I'm not the only person, but when it seems like you're the only person saying these things, it's very frustrating because I'm trying to help people, and we are not getting that support at all from mainstream media. If anything, we're getting pushback like, oh, here's the latest detox of drinking maple syrup 3 times a day. Like, no, that's not what a detox is. A detox is giving your liver support so that it can do the job. That's it. As a natural health practitioner, And as a traditional naturopath and a new school naturopathic doctor and functional medicine practitioner, Ayurveda, all those different things, all I'm trying to do is give your body the nutrition it needs to replace its deficiencies, okay? And then I want to take out its toxicities. I want to take out the metals. I want to take out the SIBO, the candida, all these things that starts to create the inflammation and the immune-based response in the body. That's my job, but I'm only here to support your body. That's basically how it works, which brings me now to the specific supplements for Alzheimer's-based disease. Now, these aren't things that you need to take right now, but if you start to see signs of these imbalances before you get Alzheimer's, or if you have Alzheimer's or early onset, they may be things that you start to look into. I will do an additional show on these because these are anti-aging supplements. And I do plan on making my recommendations. Believe it or not, I am already using many of these, but I'm not going to reveal the brand space yet. I don't make any of these brands at all. They're other people's brands. They're functional medicine brands. I have no plans on creating any of them. These are really specialty-based nutritional supplements. I will share what I'm doing just to stay ahead of the game. Because again, for me, it's honestly, it's fun to me. And I know that this is a serious topic, but for me, it's optimizing my body in every way possible so that as good as I feel now, I want to feel even better next year. And I want to keep that game going for as long as I can. At 60 years old, can I feel better than I do today? That's going to be my challenge. That's what I'm working towards. So what are some of these things? Well, the products are resveratrol. They're nicotinamide riboside, which I'll be talking a lot more about in the future. That is an amazing base product. Coenzyme Q10, specifically ubiquinol. Methylated B12. Okay, if you take additional B12 as a methyl B12 or adenosylcobalamin, then I still recommend taking something called an active B complex. The active B complex is all of your B vitamins. You need them all, okay? But you can add additional B12 if you would like to that. And if you have Alzheimer's, I do recommend that, okay? Just in the methylated form. I recommend curcumin, or we use a product called Theracumin HP. There are a lot of great products, though. Mariva is another good one. It's not the only one, but you have to go with the functional medicine-based brand, okay? You have to, because you can't go with something that you just find on Amazon. Like, it's just, trust me, I'm not going to get into that today. Trust me, you want to pay just a little extra for a third-party tested product to know what's actually in it, and there are no contaminants. Orthomolecular, Thorne, Pure Encapsulations, Integrative Therapeutics, Kirkman, Allergy Response. There's so many great brands, just so many great brands, okay? So, phosphatidylcholine, another great one. Again, if you do lab testing, mainly you're going to start using these if you do lab testing. The B12 would show up in an organic acids test. You would look at a hormone adrenal-based lab to see if you have high cortisol at night. Then you would use the phosphatidylcholine. Ashwagandha, again, another amazing product. It's in Adrenal Soothe. Highly recommend Adrenal Soothe for most people. What else is another great one for the brain? Ayurvedic-based herbs. Bacopa. Bacopa is an amazing Ayurvedic herb that helps with neurotransmitter production, specifically for the brain. Gotu Kola. Gotu Kola has been world-renowned for, meaning like used all over the world, especially in Europe, as well as India, of course, even in China, for brain-based and memory, and that is a great product. We used to use that quite a bit when I was over in Sri Lanka and India. So those are just a few to start with. Now, in addition to that, you still need a foundation. The foundation would literally be the Dr. Cabral Daily Protocol. It would be your daily nutritional support shake, which is the vitamins, all the B complex. It's your vitamin C, it's your antioxidants, it's the sulforaphane, it's the things that you need on a daily basis as a multivitamin, a multimineral, and protein to stay healthy. Then the daily fruit and vegetable blend is 22 organic fruits and vegetables. That's going to help with oxidation. It's going to help with reducing inflammation. It's going to help with literally getting the whole food nutrition of 22 organic fruits and vegetables that you're probably not going to eat, especially if you're trying to go a little lower glycemic in the beginning. And then the daily probiotic support is your way to start to rebalance that gut and get in 50 billion live probiotic every single day. It's again, just an amazing product. So one thing that this is really summed up in is my upcoming book. I can't tell you how disappointed I am on my end and myself for not already having that book out. I really am. And that's just being honest with you. My book takes you through this process step by step. And did I write the book to help to halt Alzheimer's disease, reverse Alzheimer's? No. I wrote the book to help people get balanced at a foundational level so that you don't have Alzheimer's, so you don't have the autoimmune-based disease, you don't have the psoriasis, you don't have the migraines, you don't have the gut issues, you don't have the chronic fatigue, you don't have the ADD, ADHD, you don't have any of those things, because what we work on is what I spoke about before. is a foundational based level. That's what it's all about. Once you return the body to homeostasis, once you reach equilibrium, that is when the body begins to heal itself. That is what we strive for in natural medicine. I hope today's episode was helpful. I would love to hear your feedback. Please just go to cabralsupportgroup.com, join our free Facebook group, let me know how you like today's show, or just come on over to Instagram. Just look at Stephen Cabral and let me know. Just give me your feedback. How can I help? I mean, did I miss anything? Do you have any questions? I would love to be able to support you on your journey into health. Thank you so much for your support of the Cabral concept. Please do feel free to share this show with anyone you believe it could help. I want to sincerely thank you for your support of this podcast. I couldn't do it without you, and I mean that. I truly do. I also want to make sure you knew that we now have multiple ways for you to find your answers to the most difficult health, wellness, weight loss, and anti-aging questions. You can find podcast-specific topics like thyroid, adrenal, hormones, sleep, digestion, Ayurveda, and many more at stephencabral.com/podcasts that will then link you to your favorite Apple, Spotify, and other podcast players. Plus, all new podcasts and weekly exclusive video content is being added to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Stephen Cabral. And that's Stephen with a PH. Head on over and subscribe so that you don't miss any of the exclusive content. Lastly, if you've ever found any of my podcasts or books to be helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could leave a review on iTunes or your favorite media player for the podcast. Rating and subscribing to the YouTube and podcast allow me to reach more and more people and help spread my mission of healing throughout the world. Thank you again for being a part of this movement.